What would you do if the person you loved most shattered your world? San Bernardino was a quiet place where families built dreams and love thrived. Isaac Albert Perez had it all: a wife, 2 beautiful children, and a life he thought was built on trust. But love, when betrayed, can turn into something unrecognizable. One fateful night, Isaac's world came crashing down. A secret affair, a confrontation under the cold glow of streetlights, and a choice made in the heat of emotion. In mere moments, heartbreak became rage, and a desperate chase ended in irreversible tragedy. What led a devoted husband and father to commit an unthinkable act? Was it love? Was it betrayal? Or was it the darkness we all carry, waiting for the wrong moment to surface? This is the story of how love can twist into obsession, how emotions can drive a man past his breaking point, and how one night changed everything forever. Stay tuned, because this story will make you question, how far would you go for love? In the quiet suburb of San Bernardino, where life seemingly flowed like the gentle breeze through the palm trees, darkness lingered beneath the surface. Isaac Albert Perez, a husband and father, felt the weight of betrayal as he vividly recalled the moments leading up to that fateful night. It had been a roller coaster of emotion for him, weaving through anger, hurt, and an overwhelming sense of helplessness. As the sun set that evening, he knew he had reached a breaking point. It was a little after midnight on January 26, 2025, when Isaac decided to confront his wife, Asia Gersey. Throughout their marriage, Asia had been the light in his life, a radiant spirit who filled their home with laughter and love. He was proud of the family they had built together, especially their 2 young children, who adored their mother. However, everything had changed when Isaac discovered that Asia was having an affair with another man, Charles Dark. The revelation shattered him, leaving him feeling betrayed and rejected. That night, as he parked his car at Paris Hill Park, Isaac's mind raced. The confrontation he had dreamt of was no longer just a fantasy. It was a cold reality. He felt adrenaline coursing through his veins as he spotted Asia's car. The anger inside him simmered, radiating outward in waves. He had accepted the heartbreak, but he couldn't shake the visceral rage that bubbled just below the surface. He confronted Asia and Charles, demanding answers regarding their betrayal. The sight of them together sent a wave of despair washing over him. How could she do this to their family? As tension thickened in the air, the realization hit him like a brick wall. He was losing her. Asia, visibly shaken, tried to reason with him, but it only fueled his anger further. The couple attempted to drive away, and in that moment of panic, a primal urge took over Isaac. He revved his engine and took off after them, determined to confront the depth of their betrayal. His heart raced, each beat pounding with an uncontrollable mix of anguish and vengeance. The chase began, a frantic race fueled by emotions he could hardly comprehend. With every turn they took, Isaac followed closely, his mind clouded by rage. The streets of San Bernardino blurred around him. It was as if the world had faded away, leaving only him and the couple in that small moment. He couldn't fathom why they thought they could escape him. His thoughts spiraled out of control, convincing him that he was doing this for his family, for his children. How could Asia choose another man over her husband? As they approached a limited visibility area, Isaac's car collided with theirs. The force sent them off the road, through a chain-link fence, and into a flood control channel. Time slowed as he realized what had happened, moments blurring into a cacophony of screams and metal crunching against metal, punctuated by the sickening sound of their impact. The world around him shifted, his focus narrowing to the aftermath. In his mind, he had reached a desperate conclusion without realizing the devastating consequences of his actions. Panic flooded through him as he crashed to a stop, his heart racing in horror at what had just transpired. He emerged from his car to assess the damage, yet the chaos before him left him paralyzed. The reality began to dawn on him. Asia and Charles lay lifeless in the wreckage. The weight of that truth descended upon him like a heavy fog, suffocating and inescapable. With sirens blaring in the distance, he stood frozen, confronted by what he had done. When law enforcement arrived, they found him still at the scene, hollow and dismantled. Officers pulled him aside, their glances heavy with the knowledge of mortality amid the wreckage. He was taken into custody as the realization of his actions began to sink in. The once ordinary man was charged with 2 counts of murder, but the term felt inadequate to capture the horror of the moment. Days passed, but the weight of the crash loomed large over Isaac's existence. News of the tragedy spread like wildfire, becoming a spectacle for neighbors and friends who had once embraced him and Asia as the perfect couple. Social media buzzed with speculation and gossip, opinions flying like arrows in a war, piercing him at every turn. He had gone from doting husband to villain in the eyes of many, with a narrative chiseled into the very fabric of a community that once cherished him. When court proceedings began, Isaac faced a barrage of emotions from lawyers, the media, and public opinion. In the courtroom, fragments of the past echoed in his mind, the laughter of his children, memories shared with Asia, and the love that had turned sour. Yet with each passing day, he felt an insurmountable sense of denial settle over him. How could he reconcile that man in the courtroom with the husband who loved his wife? As he awaited his fate, Isaac found himself reflecting on their life together, their wedding day, the promises they made beneath swaying trees. They had chosen love over everything, but in this tangled web of betrayal and pain, love had twisted into something dark. Memories of happier times flooded back, rolling in waves separated by the harsh reality confronting him. Would he ever have a chance to explain the burden of his broken heart, or would he be forever trapped in this cycle of grief? Behind the bars of his confinement, Isaac contemplated how to shift the narrative of his actions. He had never intended to hurt Asia. It was the anger, the betrayal, that had consumed him whole, turning him into someone he never recognized. He wished to communicate that desperation to the world, that love could turn toxic in the blink of an eye. With every breath, Isaac hoped for redemption, not just for himself, but for the memory of Asia and the family they once built. Outside the courtroom, the families of both victims and defendants grappled with their loss. Asia's family mourned the daughter, sister, and friend whose life was so tragically cut short, while Isaac's family struggled with the devastation of his actions. They had hoped to support him throughout the process, believing there was still a glimmer of the Isaac they once knew buried beneath the wreckage of that night. Months dragged by like an eternity, each day filled with longing and despair. Isaac had never imagined he'd be facing such insurmountable hurdles. Even as he sought clarity, many around him turned their backs. Friends and acquaintances distanced themselves. Communities were riven with divisions and disbelief. Those who once laughed with him at barbecues and celebrations now struggled to understand how the man who had embraced normalcy could commit such an unthinkable act. In cell block isolation, Isaac began to learn about himself in the context of pain. Through journaling and quiet reflection, he explored the depths of his emotions. He understood, perhaps for the first time, that violence was never a solution. Although his actions were driven by an emotional whirlwind, they ultimately stripped him of his humanity. Each word he penned became both a lifeline and a reminder of the heavy burden he would forever carry. Gradually, the wheels of the judicial system turned. The trial date approached, and with it came Isaac's moment to speak. Surrounded by lawyers and family, he faced the judge, jury, and the memories of his past life. He took a deep breath and steadied himself before sharing his story, hoping to convey the anguish and desperation that had gripped him and led to that destructive night. He spoke about his love for Asia, moments of happiness, and the gradual unraveling of their relationship. He detailed how betrayal clouded his judgment, transforming him into a shadow of the person he used to be. Even as he recounted the events with painful honesty, he could feel sympathy slipping through the cracks of his testimony. There was no justification for the anguish he caused, the lives lost, the memories shattered, but perhaps there might be an understanding of the human condition that transcends social narratives. The courtroom felt smaller as he explained the inexplicable emotions that had taken control of him that night. He asked for understanding, not for himself, but for his children. Children who would bear the weight of this tragedy for the rest of their lives. He expressed deep sorrow for the lives lost, genuine remorse overflowing from his heart. In those emotional moments, time seemed to stand still. Witnesses listened intently, and even the judge paused to absorb the gravity of his words. Could there be redemption for a man who acted out of despair? As Isaac's testimony reached its conclusion, he felt a flicker of hope ignite, a hope that perhaps, even from the depths of despair, understanding could emerge. When the verdict was finally delivered, Isaac was ready. It wasn't about escaping the consequences, it was about seeking forgiveness, both for himself and from those who had been affected by his actions. The jury deliberated, and though they found him guilty, he felt a strange sense of peace. They had acknowledged the tragedy of that night, a night that irrevocably impacted so many lives. As he returned to his cell, Isaac reflected on the transformation within him. While there was no way to erase the past, he understood that he had the opportunity to rebuild his life, perception, and his children's future. Through the ashes of regret, he yearned to create something meaningful, something that would honor the memory of Asia and the life they shared. At the moment of confinement, he realized that growth stems from the most painful experiences. He accepted that the pain he endured would serve as a constant guide, reminding him of the fragile nature of life and love. Determined to share his story and help others navigate their emotions before reaching a breaking point, he looked toward the future with cautious optimism. Though the road ahead would be long and treacherous, Isaac began to understand that healing starts with self-realization. His story, birthed from anguish, could serve as a cautionary tale of the power of love and the dangers of allowing hatred to take the reins. In embracing his humanity, even after facing the deepest despair, Isaac hoped to reclaim not just his life, but the legacy left behind by a love that once bloomed. He had learned the hardest truth, that sometimes love can morph into something unrecognizable, propelling individuals toward tragedy when left unchecked. As he took another breath, he silently vowed to honor both the love and loss that defined his circumstances, emerging from the darkness as a messenger of change.